All right, guys, here in Module 6, Lesson 2, we're going to learn about how to use tape diagrams, which we're really familiar with, and flip them. We usually do them horizontally. We're going to flip them vertically, and that's sort of an introduction to a bar graph. You're going to learn a lot more about bar graphs as we go on this year, and then obviously into your academic futures as mathematicians. But this is sort of an introduction to show you what those basic things look like. So let me get my screen up here. Your work in Seesaw today will reflect what I'm doing really closely. So pay close attention here. So the first thing I'm going to do is give us a problem to work with, a word problem. And I'm going to say that Jack plays basketball. And he scores 8 points in game 1. 16 points in game 2, and 12 points in game 3. He always scores 2 points at a time, like 2-point baskets, 2-point baskets. So draw a tape diagram for each game. So that means I'm going to have 3 tape diagrams, right? So I have a tape diagram for game 1, game 2, and game 3. So I could come down here and say game 1, game 2, that back, and game 3. Now I'll draw a tape diagram for each. I'm going to go game 1, he scores 8 points, so I'll make a tape diagram to show 8. Game 2, he scores 16, so that's going to be basically twice as long. And then game 3, he scores 12, which is going to be right in the middle of those two. And then I'll go through with my tool and show you exactly how many 2-point baskets he scored in each game. So here in game 1, this is a lot like the fraction work we did, right? Dividing things up. So he scored 2 points, 2 points, 2 points, and 2 points. So 2, 4, 6, 8. He scored 4 2-point baskets. And then here in game 2, 2 points, 4 points, 6 points, 8 points, 10 points, 12 points, 14, and 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He scored 8 2-point baskets in that game for a total of 16 points. And then here in game 3, he scored 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So he scored 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 2-point baskets, which we know because 6 times 2 is 12. And so that's going to be the first step in your problem, especially on Seesaw. You've had experience doing sort of these sorts of things before. This should be a review for you rather than new learning. The new learning comes in when we take these things and flip them from horizontal, side to side, to vertical, up and down. So we're going to take them and rather than this game 1 being going left to right, all of a sudden it's going to be going up and down like this. Let me show you what that looks like on the next slide. So I can, I'll get my games down here again. We're going to use the same numbers. So game 1, game 2, that's not cooperating with me today. And game 3. So I have my 3 games there. And in game 1, as you recall, he scored 8 points. So we'll put a tape diagram here for 8 points. Game 2, he scored 16. Remember, we have to start these all in the same place on the bottom. They have to be the same width. That way we can compare them. And then game 3, he scored I'm doing my best to get these all in the same spot and the same size, but there we go. So we have our three basic things. We had 8, 16, and 12. Now I need to draw the lines in. And I'm going to go 2, 4, 6, and 8. And again, I can label these so to show that he had 2-point baskets and he made 4 of them. And then over here he had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. So as we learned in the first time, he had 8 2-point baskets for a total of 16 points. And then over here on game 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. So we had 6 2-point baskets over here in game 3. And this is the basics of a bar graph. A bar graph will have a label of whatever's being measured or counted on the bottom. And then above that spot, you have extending into the graph a column that shows how many of that thing there are. Over here, in a real bar graph, you'd have something that would say points. It would have a label, so we knew what we were talking about. And again, you'll learn more about that as we go on, but that's just showing that what we're measuring here on the side of the screen over here is points. So that's going to be step 2 in your problems. But we can take it even one step further. Now, we're all familiar with 2-point baskets in basketball, but we can, for example, say that we're going to measure this in units of 4. So back here on page, the second example I did, these are being units of 2. Because each block is a 2. So that's units of 2. Now I'm going to move over here to another page and do units of 4. So I'm going to get my text box up here. I'm going to say game 1, game 2, and game 3. And then I'm going to, again, draw my rectangles to show my vertical tape diagrams, or my, my bars for my bar graph. I have 8 points here. I had 16 points here. And I had 12 points for game 3. But now, before I was using units of 2, now I'm going to use units of 4 this time, rather than units of 2. So I'm going to chunk these into groups of 4, or put them into groups of 4, rather than in groups of 2. So for the first one, that's really simple, because I have 4 and 4 is 8. So I still have 8 points here. We didn't change the number of points he scored. We just looked at it in a different way. He scored one group of 4 and then another group of 4. We can do the same thing here in game 2. He did 4, and he did another 4. So he has a total of 8. And then he scores another 4. He's up to 12. And then finally he scores a last 4 for 16. So we still have 16 points. We just put it in units of 4 rather than units of 2. 4, 4, and 4. Same thing here in number 3. We have 4 points, 8 points, 12 points. We didn't change the number of points in game 3, but now we're looking at it in units of 4 rather than units of 2. So that's what your work in Seesaw is going to ask you to do. And we talked about that in lesson 1 as well, is that the units can change, but it doesn't necessarily change the whole, the total. So, or it definitely won't change the total. I think you're going to start with 4s in Seesaw and move to 8s, but it's the same idea. You start with one unit and then you move to another unit, which just means you're going to have fewer boxes, but each box is going to be worth more. All right, guys, any questions, ask me in our Zoom chat, or ask me by email or in a comment in Google Classroom, and we'll figure out a way to help you out. All right, keep working hard. You guys are doing awesome.